Okay. Um, Sorry for the slow ramp up. What we're doing here today is hey everybody, I'm Caleb Arnold, also known as C-Lab from the band C-Lab and the Kettle Black, and co-founder at Gigaton at gigaton.ai. And I'm super excited to bring what we have today. Not only is this our first live test of a YouTube video and kind of our demo of how we demo the demo, if we can just demo a lot. Anyways, uh, what we're gonna do today is we're gonna roll into our application environment and we're gonna show what that is and what we're trying to do with our producer Betty application. So let's dive right into it. Let's flip on our screen share and we'll dive right into Logic. And and I'll get myself a little face up here too so you all can see me talk while we kind of work through some things. So what this application is a Logic overlay. So if you're familiar with Logic Pro and recording with Logic Pro, this should be fairly familiar with you, this screen, because I just have a Logic Pro session open right now. And we're going to show how Betty interacts with this. Let me just make sure I've got some levels going. Good. It looks like you're able to hear the session, which is what I'm looking for. And I'm kind of working through this drum set right now. That's not the important part. Let's fire up Betty. We're still working locally here a little bit, which means we have a test flight version that's out in alpha, but then we also build locally out of Xcode, which is what you're seeing right now. Let me make sure I get back to the right screen. Yes, I believe that's true. Okay, let's sign in. This goes right through your Apple login. It's only logging in through Apple right now because this is a Logic application and you're going to have Logic anyway, which requires an Apple account for you to get Logic. And then you're also going to need an Apple account to use the App Store, which is the only way that we were able to get it into the App Store as well. So for now, Logic it is, and Logic's a well-known application for recording. So is GarageBand, so thought this might be a good place for us to start and test. So Logic is open, and you can see our Rockin' Betty application is also open. We might have a small bug here that I need to maybe note. It looks like it was supposed to open up to our most recent version of what we had open, but maybe it thinks this is the most recent version. I've opened a few conversations here, but we're going to go to our primary conversation that we had last with Betty. And Betty is our AI Logic application co-producer. So Betty can see all the tracks in the Logic session, and she can even hear the signal route through the chain inside of each channel. So let's get into each bit and piece and kind of walk through how this application works. Over here on the right hand side, everybody's seen chat panels before. This is the chat panel between you and our producer Betty application, the LLM. And out here at the top, you can see this is how we navigate our song chats. So for instance, it will track per song that you have open, and inside of that song you can have multiple conversations. So we wanted to make sure that each session kept contextual state with that particular session, and you can either choose to continue to build inside of that session and manage all of your files that way, or you can open up a new session and Betty would then be assigned a new session title to that other session. Sure, there's other ways to route it down the road. For now, this was the simplest way for us to kind of keep track of the file management per the conversations that should be allocated to the song. So anyway, this is, and it will switch if you switch songs. So we'll demo that a little bit later. If we switch songs, it should switch right over to whatever that song is, as long as you've saved it. And we'll chat a little bit about that as well. Up here, you can see we're linked. So that means that this session is actually linked to our Logic track. And then we also have our account up here at the top, which allows you to sign in, really just kind of manage the sign in, sign out in this simple state. At the top here, we see this keep window on top button. And the reason this is important is in case we need Betty to stay out here on top so we can navigate, you can click this button, and now we can click in the back and hear the session if we need to, and even move in and out of where our session is at. Uh, so this is really just so that we can keep the panel on top. You can untoggle that, and then if you click in the back, Betty disappears, and then we can toggle right back to our application. I'm going to click on this and just keep it on top for a minute while we talk about it. The tooltips toggle on and off the tooltip portion of it. So if you hover over any of the instances for longer than 2 seconds, it should give you a tooltip as to what that particular thing does. I try to be pretty thorough about all the tooltips in the application, but if you see that we're missing any, please let me know. I'm happy to add those in. I want it to be as easy as possible for you to understand how to use the application. And if you get tired of the 2-second wait tooltip, which I'm not sure, most people work faster than 2 seconds at a time, but you can turn the tooltip off. We're going to leave it on for now. The voice input, this is how Betty speaks back to you. So when you speak to Betty, if we were to hold the talk here, Betty will speak back to you, and then also will replicate what she says in the prompt. She's basically reading what you see in the prompt whenever you hear her voice, but it makes the interaction feel a little bit more humanistic, as if you have a producer right there with you in the application environment. So we'll demo that, what that looks like in just a second, but you can also toggle her voice input on and off. For instance, if you didn't want to hear it at all, or didn't want to accidentally hear the voice, or maybe you were working in a setting where you wanted to make sure that it stayed quiet, you can toggle the voice off, and then this does not work. So we're just going to keep that on for a second, and we'll demo what that seems like in a little bit. Down here below, you can see verbose, brief, and silent. That's just kind of how she can have longer context. Brief is very brief, so we're still testing this. I find this not be very useful because most of the questions that I have a deeper context than what brief is going to be, but I can see how brief would be really beneficial if you're in the session and recording. So for instance, we're just going through the engineering protocols of, turning volumes up and down and adjusting levels and pans, and maybe arming tracks or disarming tracks. All of that can be things that Betty can do and is getting better at. That might be a good use of the brief. So we might click it over to brief when we're doing quick interactions between a session. We're trying to get through our recording. And then when we come back and we want to do a further deep dive, we'll roll back into verbose. Silent is basically the same thing as turning her off. You can keep this on and hold the talk, but then she's only going to give you back text over here. I guess it's a way for you to be able to talk and then return text and keep it quiet. But just know that these three options are there for your liking, for your whatever your preferences are for her communication back with you. If we go down here to this system voice is actually the text to speech that you hear inside of your computer, like computer on. Like, it's very robotic sounding. I kind of liked it in the beginning because it reminded me that I was talking to some significantly complex technology, but after a while it gets annoying. So we flipped it over to Betty's voice, and the real Rockin' Betty chose the voice. So Rockin' Betty and our Betty brand is not based on nothing. Rockin' Betty was created by Cherie Best. She worked at the Stranger magazine in Seattle, Washington, and that was a moniker that she used to book and create brands and do marketing. And that moniker just continued through time to where we have now the Rockin' Betty brand available for other musical things like application products. So that said, Betty picked the voice. It's a long way for me to say that. So the real Betty picked it. She liked the idea of an Australian voice, and you'll kind of hear what that sounds like in a minute. And then down here below, if you choose, regardless which voice you choose, if you use the microphone settings here, you can choose what input device you want to use to talk back into it. So if you wanted to choose if you have like a universal audio or like a Focusrite, like I have, this says MacBook Pro audio, but we can go down here. Let's select the Scarlett 1880i, and so now it will hear the microphone that you're hearing right now whenever we go to record, and we'll do that in a second. But that nice feature, we have not created the output device yet, which is where you want to hear Betty speak from. I think this will become more important as we create the control room environment, which allows Betty to react in more of a talkback feature mode, as if you were in the studio and she was the engineer that was speaking back to you, or the assistant in the room or in the studio speaking back to you. So Scan session is a snapshot of what you see here. So for instance, if we were just to screenshot the whole screen, that's what the scan session state does. The other cool thing about the scan session state is if you open up a new chat and you have a new song with a new chat and you need to sync or link these two together, you can do that by the scan session. You can also open up a new chat here. So like I start a new conversation. And if I wanted that conversation to sync back to this particular session, I could click the scan session and it's like almost like a save button. But the other key feature to what the scan session button does, and we'll just go ahead and click it right now, is it does a quick scan of the MIDI data. And so the MIDI data, it actually only covers the first 8 tracks because that's a Mackie restriction that Mackie Engineering had for these that we're using inside here. So it only goes up to track 8. We can get more data out of that by using the visual scan, which is the second piece there, the deep scan. But really this scan session is meant to just get a really quick view of what it is that you're working on. And that way Betty and you can get up to speed on your session context. The deep scan goes further than that. So if we click the deep scan really quick, before we go forward on that, let's keep talking about the scan session really quick. You can see she said the session player is visible at the bottom of the screen. The drummer track is selected. So you can see she sees that we have the drummer track open. Let's try something else. We're going to close our drummer track. Let's open up our mixing board here and our mixing controls. And we're going to hit the deep scan. And you notice that here we have our drums and then some additional tracks that are below the fold. What we expect to see is that she's going to scroll through these tracks in order to scan how many tracks we actually have, and then probably try and do something very similar here to the mixer. So if we had more tracks that were in our mixing control, then you could see inside of this lower section down here, then she would scroll through those until she could see your whole session state. This is just another way for her to be able to see the entire session that you're using, that you're in, not just a piece of it. So let's go ahead and try it. Let's get the deep scan. And so there we can see that she's scrolling through our session down here. She's taking a look at our plugins. She's going to do the same thing with our session up above. She's taken 4 screenshots, tell you how many screenshots that she took, and we're analyzing it just so everybody knows that this is GCP backed, so this does roll through Google's LLM, which is Gemini, and we're using 2.5 Pro and Flash for some of these different analysis. In this case, she's going to come back with a deep scan, 5 tracks, 4 range with a 3 in the mixer view. She's saying it's a laid-back soul influence Betty template session because this is a template. But you can see how easily this kind of all comes together. I'd say the one thing that we don't have here, you're positioned at bar 11, ready to lock in the 75 BPM pocket and start refining those live track takes. Yeah, she's hallucinating an old BPM that we had. We recently worked through actually mapping the tempo to a loop that I had down below. She guided me right through it. And then once that tempo mapping had happened, we needed to flip, for YouTube's sake, we needed to flip from 44.1 to 48 so that we could route without any kind of fuzziness through OBS, which is another tool that I'm using to broadcast this here. And so when I did that, I flipped from 44.1 hertz over to 48. She guided through that whole process, shrunk off the timing inside of, obviously whenever you change the hertz, it changed the speed of the song. We had to change it back without destroying any of the actual tracks. And she guided me through that whole process. Matter of fact, what I didn't know is out here in the far right-hand side, you can actually see all of your tracks out here. Brand new thing. I've been working in this application forever and had no clue that this existed until Betty showed it to me the other night, which is, this is 44.1 here. I probably do need to change this. Looks like we're 48 all the way down. We're still 44.1 here. I do need to flip this one over at some point. Looks like I got a second guitar take down here. It's probably why I'm coming into problems here. I have a looping issue. And that seems to make sense. I'm glad we caught that. Cool. More stuff, right? So to keep going on our app, and then we're just going to get into, after I kind of walk through like all the features that are inside of this particular application environment, we're going to dive into actually using it, and we'll be debugging here live for a while we check through some things. Let me see if there's anybody online actually right now. I just want to verify some stuff. Okay, I think we're good. We also have a Discord page, which I can pull up really quick so that you can see. Our Discord is where our support is at. So we have a Discord out at gigaton.ai. Undo Betty here from the top. And you can go right to our Discord at Gigaton, and this is where we help do support. Betty, you can talk to Betty directly for now, right here inside. And if you request it from us, we'll set you up with your own channel for you to test Betty right inside of our Discord channel. I think what's also exciting about this is that our LLM is able to speak to the whole community at the same time, and then also as individuals. And then so you can have multiple people with the LLM in a multi-contextual, multi-user, single-threaded conversation that is great. It's actually been a pretty big game changer for our ability to not only build but support. So exciting stuff. Anyway, you can go experience that out there as well, and our Rockin' Betty application is out there to help, and we continue to try and improve her ability to support you in this application environment that we have built. So back to our Rockin' Betty app. Down here below, we have the audio analysis, the ears. If we play the track, let's go ahead and keep Betty on top here. And we'll play the track. You'll notice over here all of these sensors that are here. On each channel, you have the ability to click on the channel, go down to audio units. Once you install the Gigaton Producer Betty application, stop this. You don't need to hear my crappy song. Once you go down to so you click on, just like you would do an audio unit or a plugin or an effects or EQ or anything like that, you go to your plugins. When you install the Producer Betty application, you get the plugin automatically. And so down here in our audio units, Gigaton Betty sensor plugin, you can click on the plugin. She now has virtual ears. So again, we're going to click on the, and so this is which one? Guitar track. So as soon as the guitar comes in, you'll see that she's going to be registering and looking at the peak levels through the signal chain. So you can see she's already catching red here in the signal chain. And so now that she's seen it, we can ask her about the hotness of the guitar. This is so now what I'm showing you is there's going to be three things here. One, she has ears that pick up here, so you can see how many channels you have it on. It doesn't tell you which track yet. We're still working on it. Again, this is a work in progress. And then you also have the ears over here in the plugin area so that she can hear your session. The other crucial part here is now she has MIDI data about that signal chain. So let's just ask her about the guitar track and how hot it is. Betty, can you give me an analysis of what you just heard on the guitar track? It seems like it was red in the peak levels. What do we need to do? So it heard everything I said. You can see it going through and recording what we had to say. The
guitar on track 5 is indeed hitting the red, currently peaking at plus 1.2 decibels, which is introducing digital clipping into your recording. Since we're prepping for retakes at 97 BPM, we need to create some headroom now to avoid baking in that distortion. Recommendation: pull the fader on track 5 down to 10 decibels immediately to stop the clipping on the master bus, and then lower your Focusrite input gain until your peaks hit around 6 decibels for the new takes. Action: volume track 5 saw 10 decibels. Action: update project notes. Calibrate guitar input gain. Focus.
Okay. So we're still working through some details of what Betty can and can't do, but you can see she made recommendations. And then now she's wanting to execute a command. We keep the human in the loop for all command executions, at least they should be. And so when we click this, she's going to, if we take a close look, here's our guitar track. We can see our gain, where it's at. We're going to go ahead and click execute and see if she pulls the guitar volume down. She did. and update project notes, calibrate the guitar input. So now we'll get down to this bottom area here, these project notes that we have. And this is the way for you and Betty to keep track of your project session. It's an easy way for you to remind yourself where you're at, things that you want to do. You can tell Betty multiple things that you want to do inside of it. She'll remember those and then put those in place. And then you and Betty reference this on a regular basis to be able to work through the production inside of your session. And so let's go ahead and hit execute. And calibrate guitar input gain is where our focus is at and where Betty has now updated our project notes. If we go down below here, these are really just to make sure everything's running and for our own troubleshooting and testing still. Imagine over time maybe these will go away or these will turn into something else, but for now this helps our test users be able to quickly go down here and see if things are just off. So when we do our support documentation, that'll probably be one of the things we talk about is, hey, if you're having troubles, quickly go down here and just see if you're greenlit on everything, and that's how it'll work. You can also see a little bit of how our configurations work and the things that we've done in order to build this. And so we've got some plugins and our Firebase sign-in as well, which is, by the way, how we're storing session data. So we store the conversations that you're able to recall. We do store the session information, but only as far as being able to recall that this particular conversation is supposed to be with this session ID number. I guess we do the project notes as well. Other than that, everything else is hands-off and kept inside of your local session. So we're not trying to take data. We're definitely trying to scrape anything. And if we're learning, using it to improve our experience, it's because we're only looking for commonalities in production environment using Betty, and then also commonalities in producing using Logic that allow us to improve her ability to help you co-produce even better. Again, one of our biggest theories here is that information and resources are the most important thing that you can have at your fingertips whenever you're trying to create music. Not everybody wants it done for them, like in a Suno or a UDO environment. Some of us still really like to create, and really we've just trying to become better producers our entire career, and having this co-producer right here with you is a way for you to be able to do that. Really just ask all the questions that you've ever wanted to ask, and if it can answer them, great. If it doesn't, well, generally I find I'm about 50% further than I was 10 minutes ago before I didn't ask the question of Betty. So that's kind of where we're at. Enough me talking about the application. Let's see if we can actually put it to work. I have been working on this song, and I'm in an interesting space with it because I've tested Betty all along the way while I've also been kind of creating this idea that's been in my head. It's got this back end breakbeat style to it, and then over the top I'm just doing this very rudimentary guitar riff, and then kind of a saturated vocal tone over the top, and really meant to be just an idea right now that I plan on taking to the next level as we continue to produce it. So that's the important part about using our Gigaton producer Betty application. Okay, so picking up where we are left off, I just said a whole bunch of stuff, and honestly I'm a little scattered as to what we need to do next. So let's ask Betty. Betty, I've been talking a lot about your potential and what we're doing with this song to some of our users out in the internet. What do you think we should do next, and what is our next area of focus for this song? So not only is it okay, so it caught what I said.
That's huge. It's time to show the internet what a tight AI collaborative production actually sounds like. Now that our technical house is in order, 48 kilohertz, 97 BPM, we need to lock in the rhythmic foundation so the AI drummer and bassist have a solid human performance to follow. Recommendation: our next move is re-recording the foundation guitar part at 97 BPM to establish the pocket. This sets the stage for the AI components to snap in perfectly, turning this from a loose sketch into a professional track. Action. Update project. Notes. Re-record foundation guitar at 97 BPM. Focus.
All right, I'm dragging myself around and acting like an idiot because she's right. And painfully, I already knew that. But that's the whole point of the application. We're not trying to build something that doesn't tell you what to do next. That we're really trying to help you. It's a forcing function. Sometimes recording is hard. Sometimes making music's hard. Just because you do it every day and you love it doesn't mean you wake up and feel like doing it every single day. There's lulls. So having the encouragement to continue and reminding what needs to happen next is kind of one of those things. So I'm going to update the project notes because now we're going to re-record the guitar at 97 BPM, which means at this point we probably need to archive the entire session in its current state. When we MIDI map this out, you can see it's all over the board. I could flatten this out, but then it's not going to actually match what we have going inside the session. So I think what I'm going to do next is ask Betty what we do with this current session and how we get to our new steady rhythm version. Let's give it a whirl and see what she has to say. Betty, our MIDI map is kind of all over the place from our previous mapping, and we need to get this to a steady 97 BPM, but none of these tracks are to that. What do you suggest we do next? Because it seems like we either need to scrap and re-record, or if possible, how do we archive what we have and start fresh with the same session? So again, I said a lot. Let's see if it picks up on everything I said. Media map. Ha! See if she caught
To
it.
clean up that jagged tempo map while keeping your work safe, we should flatten the timeline to a steady 97 BPM and archive the old free takes into a hidden folder. This gives you a fresh grid without losing the soul of your original ideas. Recommendation 1. Open the global tempo track, Command-Shift-T. Select all tempo points and delete them to lock a flat 97 BPM across the project. 2. Select all current regions, right-click and choose Create Track Stack, Folder Stack. Name it Archive, then mute and hide it. 3. Enable flex time on the archive tracks if you ever want them to stretch to fit the new 97 BPM grid later. Action. Update project notes. Archive old takes to folder stack. Task. Action. Update project notes. Set steady 97 BPM grid. Focus.
Yeah, and some of this is still hiccupy, right? It's not Jarvis yet, but she can talk to you and explain what it is that we're trying to do, and the comprehensiveness of the context is at my level and it will be at yours too. So it makes it easy to speak in your natural language how you think things are happening, and she should pick up on where you're at. And I think one of the things we try and do with this is really establish the context of what you need to do with this recording of this song early on, so that she can help continue to guide you to find the next best opportunity or next best step in this particular song production environment. And what we haven't done is start talking about how we have an analysis feature that we haven't implemented on any of this yet, which actually takes an aural, I don't know what a spectral aural analysis of the final output of the songs, and then give you feedback based on that. Right now, it has to do the analysis on an MP3, like a bounced version of a song. It'll process the bounced version and then give you genre and how many, measures are in the song, and then a viewpoint of how the construction and lyrics and stuff like that. We have something that does that, but the problem is you've got to have a bounced version of the song to do it, so it does the analysis at an end state. Goal would be that we get that closer to being able to map that real time, so that you're getting real-time analysis of your final mix along with your peak levels and a take of what's happening on each one of your channels as well. Again, not doing the work for you, but helping you understand how you can produce better answering your questions for your own production performance. Because I'm a firm believer that if you don't know how to produce it for yourself well now, just because the AI is doing it for you doesn't mean you're going to know how to do it for yourself later using AI. You might get lucky, and I'm sure there's people out there that will, but I don't know, your longevity is going to be questionable. Not everybody digs in deep and stays in it with that type of flash pan mentality about creating art, honestly. So, okay, back to our project. Let's roll into execute. I'm going to hit kapow on this. It's going to update our project notes, and it says set it to steady 97 BPM grid. Gave us some instructions here, so we might as well just, I don't know, roll through the instructions. Open the global tempo track, Command Shift T, select all the tempo points and delete them to lock a flat 97 BPM across the project. I don't know that I have to do it that way, but we're just going to follow her instructions and pretend like I don't know that there's another way to do this. But this is the global tempo track up here at the top. And by the way, if you don't know how to get to this, I'm pretty sure that it's right through this little mapping thing. And you can also, your view, oh, wrong one. I think it's this one. No, let's create a new track. See, I don't know. I'm glad that I don't know Logic well enough and I have to rely on her to help me, because otherwise this would be a fool's course and errand. And I'm just like, I know better already. I don't. I've been using this application forever, and I learn something new every single time I open it. And I think that's the most important thing about Betty, is she's teaching me something new about this application and about music production and about my own abilities every single time that I dig in. And really, I mean, what more can you ask for? Is something that challenges you to be better constantly? Yeah, let's go. Okay, so I'm going to delete those. It didn't set it at 97, but we'll just adjust that to 97 up here. The problem is that now we're not in tempo with our original version here, which I think is what she's going to try and help us clean up. So let's keep going with her instructions that she has given us. And it says, open the global tempo track, select all current regions, right click and choose create track stack. Okay, so we're going to create all the current regions. Boom. And then right click, create track stack. And then it says folder stack. Oh, here we go. So back out here. So it says folder stack. And she says folder stack, name it archive, then mute and hide it. Okay. Let's it's hard to see with Betty up here, so let's pop this thing down. Folder stack. Guess we don't get more than that. Let's create. Oh, name it archive. And then, of course, mute and hide is mute here. And I think we can right click on it. Is that hide? Hide selected tracks. And boom. There we go. So she's guided us through that first part. And let's roll back. Okay, so we have, that's our focus right now. Re-record foundation. We updated some notes. Okay, I'm just going to let her know that we did this. We followed your instructions. What would you like us to do next? We followed your instructions. What would you like us to do next? So let's just pretend like she's producing it for us. This is going to be our production version.
Now that the grid is locked and the old takes are safely tucked away, we need to establish the new rhythmic heart of the song. Recommendation: set the project tempo to a steady 97 BPM in the LCD display, enable the metronome, K, and re-record the foundation guitar part on track 5. This ensures everything we build next, like the AI drummer, sits perfectly in the pocket. Action: update project notes, re-record foundation guitar at 97 BPM, focus.
And I'm going to say, let's see if she catches this, because, hey, we're still debugging. This is the whole point. We'll go ahead and execute this. Looks like re-record foundation guitar, re-record foundation guitar. We've got, if you redo guitar, we've got a few duplicates in here. So let's see if she'll clean them up. Hey, Betty, we've got a few redo guitar duplicates in our project notes. Can you clean those up and only make one?
Volume up.
Huh. So that did not quite work, but whatevs. I think we can check these off. We don't have to have Betty do everything. Re-record foundation at 97. That's true. And so re-record. So we have redo guitar. We can just click this one. And then what's another one? Is there another redo guitar in here? I thought I saw another one, but it looks like maybe that's gone. Okay. Okay. We don't have a track, right? So I don't, maybe we just ask, we don't have a track. Help me open up a track. I'm almost 100% sure we have not implemented the track opening feature. It does a lot of things, but I think that was one that AppScript continually failed on. And so we bagged that test for a later date, but let's find out whether we can. I don't think we can. Betty, we need to create a new track so that we can record our guitar. Can you do that for us? Now, what's interesting is she's probably going to hallucinate this.
I've consolidated your project notes to keep the roadmap clean and ready for the new takes. To get moving on the tracking, we'll need a fresh audio track routed to your Focusrite input. Recommendation: press Option, Command A to create a new audio track, name it Guitar Main, and set it to Input 1.
So one thing I'm going to show everybody here is that you don't have to hear her talk every time.
Action.
Up here in the upper
Update
right-hand
project
corner,
notes.
which is probably
Finalize lyrics.
better places for me to put this, but you can just click skip, and it'll skip right through that. So she has all these actions now that update project notes, and we'll see if she just doesn't add stuff. That my gut says that maybe she's just going to add things in and not take things out. Yeah, that's what it feels like. So I've got some debugging to do there. But honestly, I'd rather have my project notes there than not. So, because it's easy to forget stuff. Lightning in a bottle. Okay. So we're going to open up a new track, and I'm not going to follow her instructions because I know how to do it. But what's fun here is micro line. We'll go with guitar bass. Create. Oh, I can hear myself sound all dynamic-y through mic 1. We don't want this to be mic 1. We want it to be 2. Kapow, and that'll take that away. And I don't think we're going to be able to record guitar tonight. I want to be able to do that right now, but I need to go get some things set up, which includes me either pulling my virtual amp inside of this session, or I'm going to set up an actual guitar amp right here, mic it, and I'm going to play out loud. May do both just to test and see how this works. So, and plus, testing this YouTube was the other big goal here. I just really want to say thank you to everybody for, showing up and supporting this test, which is wild. Let me add one more thing up here because she's cool. Go to gigaton.ai if you like what you're seeing. Like and subscribe. It reminds me, not because we need subscribers, it reminds me that anybody even hears this or is seeing this and that you want more. And so I think the other big part about this is too that if you want to test this, ping us as well, because I think that's the other really big thing is we're looking for folks that want to use Logic and want to produce better music and are willing to dig in and do it. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate you coming out to the live stream, and tune in next time.